There are tons of fantastic looking Soulslikes coming in 2025, each one hoping to make its mark on the increasingly ubiquitous genre in one way or another. So in today's video I want to highlight 10 of the most exciting upcoming Soulslikes that if you're a fan of the genre, you should be paying attention to. From the first Berserker Khazan to Lies of P Overture and more, 2025 is shaping up to be an excellent year for games inspired by Dark Souls and beyond. If you enjoyed today's video, consider hitting subscribe down below to support the channel and stay up to date with future videos. Apparently, roughly 74% or so of my current viewers aren't subscribed, so if that's you and you want to be a part of the push to the channel's next major milestone of 15,000 subs, consider hitting that subscribe button down below, and hey, maybe even the notification bell too, if you feel like it. So, first up we have AI Limit, a new anime Souls-like set in a post-apocalyptic science fiction wasteland. Developed by Chinese studio Sense Games, AI Limit sees you take on the role of Arissa, an immortal blader tasked with exploring the ruined city of Havenswell in the hopes of finding new life. While a blader has the outward appearance of a human, in reality they are a brand new life form created by mysterious technology and empowered by a strange force that allows them to be resurrected after death. AI Limit looks really cool, and I always appreciate it when games in the genre go that extra mile by contextualizing why exactly you're able to keep coming back to life after dying over and over. It's totally unnecessary, I'd be playing them anyway, let's face it, but it is greatly appreciated attention to detail nonetheless. And it's playable right now thanks to a free demo, which is always nice as well. The premise does remind me of Stellar Blade somewhat, this idea of humanity's last surviving city in a post-apocalyptic science fiction wasteland, while you're playing as a character that ostensibly looks like a human on the outside, but is in fact a new life form created by mysterious technology, while the crisp anime visuals are reminiscent of something like Code Vein, lending what could otherwise be a bleak, dull, and frankly uninspired setting a much-needed splash of colour and personality. And I'm a fan of the enemy designs on show here as well. So far they seem to be an interesting mix of monstrous organic life forms, and even more enticingly, to me at least, are the mechanical yet priestly, holy-looking enemies we see towards the end of the trailer. After originally being slated for a 2024 release, AI Limit will now launch on the 27th of March. If you're interested, make sure to check out the demo. In fact, I'm going to do that right after this. We've talked about the first Berserker Khazan on the channel before, but after having played the demo a little while ago now, I came away pleasantly surprised and quite impressed. Also launching on the 27th of March, there's a bit of competition there, the first Berserker Khazan is an upcoming Souls-like set in the Dungeon Fighter Online universe, and sees you taking control of the eponymous Khazan after his body is possessed by the Blade Phantom. Like AI Limit beforehand, the first Berserker stands out thanks to its unique visual flair. It's not quite as overtly anime as AI Limit is, instead opting for more of a 3D cel-shaded look, and I really did enjoy my brief time with it. While the treacherous, snow-capped mountain setting wasn't the most interesting to kick things off with, other trailers for the game, including the one at the end of the demo, promise a variety of exciting-looking environments that really do seem to up the ante. That being said, I found myself clicking crucially with the combat almost immediately, and it's a ton of fun to battle the various bosses on offer here. Particularly the boss at the end of the demo was fantastic. Speaking of which, your progress in the demo will carry over to the main game when it releases next month, so there's really no reason not to go and try it out early. Fresh off the back of the recent network test, Elden Ring Nightreign is currently on everyone's mind. Of course, Nightreign isn't your typical From Software fare, but it absolutely has Souls-like elements to it, as it effectively condenses the entire Elden Ring experience into a bite-sized 30-minute multiplayer adventure. It's all here, resting at points of grace, gathering souls, losing and then recollecting your souls, battling terrifying bosses, except this time it's all undertaken within the confines of an exciting new roguelike structure. Elden Ring Nightreign is already a ton of fun. One of my key takeaways was that I wish the network test was still up so I could just jump back in and keep playing. From Software has the potential for yet another huge hit on their hands if the final game can stick the landing when it launches May 30th. So there's only a few months left to go before you too can return to the weird and twisted world of Limveld once again. Now, it's kind of debatable whether this next one is really a Souls-like or not, though again it does appear to have some Souls-like elements, and this is another game we've talked about previously on the channel. Set in an isolated and war-ravaged country, Hell Is Us pits you against unspeakable horrors as you explore a semi-open world environment, battling supernatural creatures with nothing but a drone and a sword by your side. Hell Is Us is characterized by its unique, hardcore approach to exploration. The game doesn't feature a map, a compass, quest markers, or anything of the sort that you might find in more contemporary open-world games. Instead, your survival is placed purely in your hands, as you are thrust into this abyssal landscape with nothing more than your wits and your weaponry. With a horrifyingly cold, sterile and desolate world that looks inspired by the likes of Control and Death Stranding, Hell Is Us finally received a release date at Sony's most recent State of Play, where we saw the incredibly creepy and unnerving game once again. Hell Is Us releases on September the 4th, and looks to me like it could be a sleeper hit. So, 4 games deep into the list, and that does it for the Soulslikes with actual locked-in release dates, but there are plenty more still tentatively slated for 2025. First up is Ballad of Antara, another Chinese-developed action RPG that dropped an in-depth 15-minute gameplay showcase back in September of last year, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. Plus, I always appreciate that's the kind of confidence you love to see from a dev team. In the game, you play as emissaries, exploring a stunning world suffocated by a strange plague, forcing you to recover the land's lost essences. While you control multiple characters in the game and can even play with up to 3 players online, the game has many of the usual trappings of a Souls-like. Terrifying, overwhelming bosses, fast-paced combat, and an emphasis on dodging, blocking, and parrying. Ringing a bell transports you into a purple-drenched parallel dimension intertwined with the real world, called the Para, yet wholly different and haunting in its own way, which on the surface reminds me a little of how the central mechanic in the recent Lords of the Fallen game worked. Perhaps most surprisingly of all, Ballad of Antara is going to be free to play, so at the very least it'll likely find an audience when it releases later this year, and I want to see what that means for the quality of the game and future support and roadmap. Generally speaking, with a game of this ilk, with it being ostensibly a single-player game, though it does have multiplayer support, I'd rather everything was available up front from the get-go, which makes me a little skeptical of the free-to-play aspect, but I guess we'll have to see. Next up is currently my most anticipated game on this list, Lies of P Overture, the upcoming prequel DLC for Lies of P, which was a huge hit back in 2023. With a scheduled yet nebulous release window of summer 2025, the DLC has presumably been in the works for a while now, so I'm hoping for something pretty expansive here. I don't think anything has been stated outright in regards to this, but I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Overture turned into a pretty sizable, potentially standalone offering, especially considering it's a prequel that will apparently take players right up to the start of the main game itself, as the puppet frenzy begins and chaos unfolds around you. Meaning it's unlikely, on the surface anyway, that you'll have had to have played Lies of P first in order to understand it, in order to access it, but obviously that's just speculation. But the winter dressing works wonders for the Belle Epoque city of Krat, helping to differentiate it from the main game immediately, and I can't wait to dive back in, to try out the new weapons, explore the new areas, and of course, tackle the game's new, incredible-looking bosses. No Rest for the Wicked is another game that's come up on the channel previously and is in fact technically already available to play. Moon Studios' latest outing has been in early access for quite some time now, but it really does look great, providing a fascinating isometric spin on the Souls formula that makes it quite unlike anything else in the genre. No Rest for the Wicked's art direction is absolutely a work of, well, art, and the weighty combat absolutely evokes the Souls games that so inspired it. I personally can't wait to go hands-on with the game when it eventually comes to PS5 in the indeterminate future. Alright, so this next game is probably the most contentious entry on this list in regards to its status actually as a Souls-like, and if it'll even come out this year. Phantom Blade Zero is a game with a lot of early buzz, and is perhaps the only game on this list that I'm not confident will launch in 2025 at all. Still, what we've seen so far looks absolutely fantastic. Taking control of the elite assassin's soul, you're tasked with discovering the truth behind the murder of the leader of a mysterious organization called the Order. No, not that order, a different one, and must traverse an interconnected semi-open world, all the while battling enemies and oppressive bosses in truly spectacular fashion, with cinematic multi-stage boss fights seemingly being the game's crowning jewel. With a focus on beautiful animations and fluid movement, Phantom Blade Zero has been described by its director as Kung Fu Punk, essentially blending Chinese Kung Fu with steampunk and cyberpunk elements. A recent gameplay video depicting a battle against a boss was incredibly well received, and I myself was very impressed by what I saw. And yet, interestingly, the game's identity feels like something of a muddled mystery. Is Phantom Blade Zero really even a Souls-like at all? Now, crucially, while the developers themselves have stated they don't consider the game to be a Souls-like, they also admit they've taken inspiration from previous Souls titles, particularly where map design is concerned, evoking the feeling of traversing the original Dark Souls games in a seamless, interconnected way, which is very exciting in my opinion, as sometimes even more so than combat, exploration is the absolute highlight of playing through a Souls game in the first place. However, by the looks of things, the game also features what I would consider to be huge departures from the Souls formula, such as difficulty options and, biggest of all, checkpoints during boss fights, designed to mitigate the inherent frustration that can come with playing a Souls game more than anything else. Let's face it, not every action game needs to be a Souls-like, and the term is dramatically overused in today's industry. And to be honest, whether it's a Souls-like or a third-person character action game, I'm just really excited to see more. If Phantom Blade Zero does turn out to be more of a character action game than a Souls-like, well, that's awesome too. It looks incredible, and I wanted to give it its dues here. I'll be honest, I don't know much about the Relic First Guardian, except it's being developed by a small South Korean studio, and is supposedly slated for a 2025 release. That being said, the game is apparently semi-open world, and various gameplay demonstrations have been released over the last few months, debuting different looks at what to expect. Intriguingly, despite leveling up being a core component of a Souls-like, the Relic First Guardian doesn't feature levels at all. Instead, you strengthen your character through runes, items, and more. Set in the land of Arsiltus, which once prosperous has been consumed by a void upon the destruction of a great relic, it's now up to you to close the void and rescue the land from its fate. Of all the games on the list, the Relic First Guardian, like I said, is the one I know the least about, and is currently the title I'm the most apprehensive about as well. But with no concrete release date locked down, there's still plenty of time to watch the game evolve. And last but certainly not least, we have perhaps one of the most promising looking titles on this list, Wuchang Fallen Feathers, which is one of the only games on the list that is actively being described as a Souls-like in its marketing. Set during the late Ming Dynasty in the ancient land of Shu, you play as Wuchang, a skilled pirate who is suffering from both amnesia and the mysterious feathering disease that threatens to consume her, but also grants her incredible power in the meantime. Aside from featuring a stunning world to explore, 25 weapons, each with their own combat style, and numerous spells to wield at your disposal, Wuchang is also bringing its own exciting twist to the genre as well, in the form of the Inner Demon. As you kill enemies, Wuchang's inner demon grows in strength, amplifying your own power, but also making you more susceptible to damage. And if you're killed, while your inner demon is awakened, it will manifest and stalk the area where Wuchang died, forcing you to face it again in order to recover your dropped items. That's a neat twist on the Souls formula. I like it. I think this is a great looking game, and I'm excited to see more. It feels like Wuchang may be one of the ones that is closest to getting a release date in the near future. It feels like it is fairly far along, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. So that's 10 upcoming Soulslikes and debatably Soulslikes for you to be excited for, that you should be paying attention to if you're not already. But this really is gaming's busiest genre right now, and there is absolutely so much that didn't make the list as well. There are so many of these games coming out that it's honestly hard to keep track of. These are just some of the ones that are really piquing my interest, and I wanted to pass that on to you as well. I also want to end the video with an honourable mention. There is a really weird, yet fascinating looking game coming out called Glaciered, where it's basically the Souls formula but entirely underwater, which seems fascinating to me. I didn't place it on the list as it doesn't look like it's coming to PS5, at least not anytime soon, but this is another fascinating one. As I talked about with Another Crab's Treasure in a fairly recent video, I love it when a developer takes a frankly absurd premise and makes the concept really work. They lean hard into it, and they believe in it, and it comes out as something kind of special. It's something you'd never expect, and surprises are more valuable than ever now in this genre that is completely overcrowded. So Glaciered is another interesting looking game. It doesn't seem to be really getting any coverage whatsoever, so that's another one to keep an eye on, and I wanted to give it an honourable mention. Alright guys, but that's it for today's video. As always, I really do hope you enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Are you excited for any of these upcoming Souls-likes? Are any of the games on this list not a Souls-like as far as you're concerned? And what does Souls-like even really mean in today's industry? Phantom Blade Zero definitely feels like the biggest one that is probably not a Souls-like and is instead more akin to a character action game, but I'm very excited for that one. That may in fact be the game I'm most excited for on this list outside of Lies of P Overture, which is essentially just a DLC expansion anyway. Phantom Blade Zero looks so good, and I can't wait to find out more about it in the near future. So do let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you took something of value away from it as well. Make sure to hit subscribe if you haven't done already. Like I said, a massive percentage of my viewers aren't subscribed, and by subscribing you will help and support the channel a lot, and I really would appreciate it. Thanks very much for watching as always, guys. Until next time, I'll catch you later, and let's talk games again.